All right. Can anybody hear me? That's gonna be the first test here before we get started at all. Sure hope so. 'Cause without that, that would make a really lame live stream. Don't know. I think the audio is working. I did it the exact same as I did last time. Let's see. How much dedicated RAM do you got? Not enough. My computer's struggling. Dedicated. Yes. Okay. Cool. Audio is working. Ah, Mr. Turncliffe, he's back. Well, we're going to get started here. Welcome back to Inverted Aviators RC. This is the first official live stream. We're actually going to be doing something and not just farting around with the setup. But I have here a UMX Voodoo, and I picked this up from somebody on Facebook Marketplace. They flew it a few times and crashed it, as you can see maybe here. So you got kind of a beamed up elevator, but the main goal here is to add one of these Wolf Whoop WTO3 cameras onto it, just like all the other planes that we use. And it should be relatively easy because it uses the same system as the UMX Crescendo, and that we only need a little adapter. So the first step I already did off camera because I didn't even think about streaming it, but you just take an X-Acto knife and you cut along the outside, and then the top hatch will pop off. And you can access the meat of it here in the middle. And there's a lot of interesting stuff going on, but the main thing we care about are these little connectors here. Let's see if I can get a better view. That's as good as we got. If I go here, and then set the camera like I would as if it was just a normal video. As you can see here, we've got some ports here that are completely empty, and that's where we're going to add on some of these connectors that are, they'll be in the description as well. They're not right now, but I'll put them in at some point. But these little connectors allow us to draw power from the board, which is how we're going to power our camera. And if we just plug it in, this is a 3-pin connector, so we just have to find the only one that has 3 pins, which is this port. We get a nice connection, which we will then draw power and signal, or power and ground to the camera there. So that should be relatively straightforward. I say that with fingers crossed because it never really is. But again, we've got the Wolf Whoop WTO3 cameras, and it should be relatively simple. So what we're going to do here is, in this box of stuff, there comes the camera as well as a little adapter piece, which is what we're going to use to actually do the soldering, so I don't have to cut the connector on the Wolf Whoop itself. There. And so we are going to do a little bit of soldering to start, if I can figure out how and where to do it. Because we're going to need to fish this wire up through this canopy and have it stick up the top, so then we can have the camera sticking out right about here right in front of the dashboard. I'm not going to put it inside the canopy yet. I might at some point, so that looks cool. But I'm just going to put it right out front. I'm going to try to make sure that the CG stays all good and not like super off balanced. So I think the first step is going to be just connecting this wire to this adapter wire that we have with. I'm going to see if the chapter button, I clicked that, didn't do anything. So we're just going to see if that doesn't work. But we can unplug this adapter for now, and we are going to cut these a little bit shorter and then solder them together so we can get everything working. So I'm going to take this, and again, the reason for not just cutting this camera wire is because if something happens to this camera, it's a lot nicer to just unplug it via this adapter rather than resoldering it. And since it comes with an adapter anyways, might as well use it. So I'm just going to take somewhere in the middle and just chop it off. There's not a whole lot of science there. But then we have this spare piece of wire. You can put that into your spare wire box. And then with this adapter, I'm actually going to test on the plane before we get started what the power, ground, and signal are. Now, we do have red, black, and yellow, which should be power, ground, and signal, but just to double check that I'm not accidentally going to fry anything, I'm going to plug this adapter back in. And then I'm going to grab a battery here, which that'll be fun to find. Let's see, went flying yesterday, so it should just be in the bag. Just a normal 3S battery would be just fine. And I'm also going to grab a multimeter. Also, feel free to ask questions along the way. I've got the chat open over there, so I can see everything. How much dedicated WAM do I have? I said earlier, my computer's struggling. So if things look really choppy, also tell me, so I can try to fix it. Not that I know how to, but do my best. So I'm going to pull, let's see, switch back to this camera. I'm going to pull this adapter out, or the power wire, and I'm going to plug in this battery. Now, if you're doing this yourself, take the propeller off, because no matter how careful you are, something might go wrong at some point, and that'll result in a few fingers getting cut. So just be safe, take the propeller off. But I'm going to plug this battery into this lead, and I'm going to use a multimeter to try to get power, or to see where power is coming from. It should be black and red, but I'm just double checking. So that hurts to double check. So you should have some beeps, which means the plane's getting power as it should. And then I've got the altimeter here, which should be giving power. I'm using split mine in half with a power line. Well, the goal is to not do that, which is why we're adding the FPV, because I can't fly this line of sight at all. I don't want to even try to do that. But let's see, if I prop this up, maybe I'll be able to see it. Wow, how professional is that? Make everything else blurry. Let's go back here. Okay, so all we're looking for is some sort of voltage to come here. I'm assuming it's going to be 5 volts because these boards usually have a 5-volt regulator. So if I touch the power and ground here, we get, ooh, okay, that's interesting and good. See how we're getting -4? That means power and ground are reversed. I'm going to double check that again just to make sure. But as you can see here, we've got 0, and if I go red to red and black to black, this is negative. Okay, so if I do then black to red and red to black, we get positive. So a note I'm going to make right now, the black wire from this adapter goes to the red wire on the camera, because if you don't, you're going to smoke out your camera or your board or a little bit of both. So just keep that in mind. Now with that figured out, I'm going to unplug this. I don't need to plug that in yet. And I'm going to unplug this from the plane, move everything out of the way, because we should just be doing a little bit of soldering. And so I've got this adapter from the camera. I'm going to undo these wires here, and let's see, I'll strip off the ends of it. This is all pretty normal. If you want to know how to solder, we have a video, I think, on soldering. If I don't, there's a lot of videos out there on how to solder. So it's just stripping the ends off just a little bit. There we go. See that? I'm actually going to switch this, or move this camera over a little bit, because I thought ahead and, oops, sorry if that's really jostling, I can do that. But we got this microscope from JoyLens, and it actually has a video output. So if you want to do some soldering, we can see here that we've got in the bottom, or the full screen is everything, and then in this top corner we've got a microscope. So if I want to do some soldering here, I can show you that these are the wires we're soldering. So I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to take this yellow wire, let's see, right, take this yellow wire from the adapter and just cut it off. We're not going to need it. There's no signals that we're going from the camera to anything. So I'm just going to give it a quick trim here. Actually, let's see, maybe this view. I'm just going to take a little wire cutters and trim it as close to the end as we can, because if we don't, that's just going to be extra weight. If you want to think about it like that, it's going to be this much extra weight. So I just trimmed it off, threw it into the extra wire bin. But like I said earlier, we've got red to black and black to red. We do not have the normal, straightforward, easy red to red, black to black. So I'm going to switch over here, and we're going to tin up these wires. This actually might be a whole lot of extra wire, but this will be it. We're going to flux these up, dunk them in, and dunk these in as well. I also have a little bit of heat shrink, which right here. We got this whole case off of Amazon, and it's got all these different sizes, and so we've been using it for years, and we haven't run out yet, so that might be a good pickup if you're looking for a whole lot of little bits of heat shrink. But we're only going to need one tube here, and it should be relatively small. Also, if your camera supports OSD, it's useful to wire directly to the input voltage. Oh yes, that is a good point. This camera doesn't support an OSD, but yes, that is a great point, that a lot of cameras that do support OSD, you can take that input voltage straight from the battery lead or wherever you get voltage out of. But yeah, unfortunately, this camera works super, super well for everything. It just doesn't have an OSD. But that is a great point. Try again. But I'm going to cut just a tiny piece off here. I can even get back into this view. And we're just going to need a little bit, like that much. And two of them, one for each wire. And I'm going to put those on this long adapter, get them out of the way. And then we can solder these together. I also have these handy dandy hands here, because I don't have enough hands for this job. But I'm just going to connect these wires in one side, adapter in the other, although I still need to tin them. So, like I've said a few times now, we're going red to black, black to red. Don't do it otherwise. Ask me how I know. I've got a handful of these cameras that I've been trying to do things like the head tracking Corsair. I tried to use one of these, I actually used one of these Wolfhook cameras. It's just the wiring was wrong, and so I smoked a bunch of them. So that was kind of weird. But I've got my soldering iron here, which you can see at the top of the screen, if it's plugged in, which it's not. That's plugged in. Now we're going to turn on the soldering iron and get it up to 400 degrees. Has to be Celsius, maybe. I don't know. Get up to 400 degrees. That's what I always solder at, so why change it now? Also got this little coil thing that helps keep the tip clean. So once I get to 400 degrees, I'm going to just prep these wires here at the end. I'll get a tweezers out so you can see it better. But these wires are just going to need a little bit of solder so they flow well together. And so 400 degrees. I've also got to figure out, I'm left-handed, so this system would work super well if I was right-handed because it's coming across. But hopefully this still looks nice. I'm going to get my solder here, and we're just going to get the tip, a little bit of solder on it. And do that to all the wires. There we go. And then we're just going to connect them up. So praying that this goes well, or like it's smooth, because tiny wires like this can be finicky. But if I get them as close as I can together here, and then get into this and just hopefully touch it a hair. See, that is a cold solder joint, which means these wires are connected technically, as you can see on that top right. They're connected, it's just a poor joint. So I'm going to try to get these a little bit better. Now, if I was just making a video, not streaming this, I would just cut it and then struggle with it for a while. But since I'm streaming, you guys all get to see how long I struggle with it. You fly mini quads. Yeah, I made a really small quad, not to get distracted, but I've got a little tiny quad that is right here. Full desk. I'm also going to turn this stream into an actual video tutorial, so people won't be seeing this unless they actually watch the stream. But I do fly a mini quad, one that I made. It was inspired by Mr. Shutterbug on YouTube. It's like 65-gram micro quad. I haven't flown in a while, and the batteries are super puffy. But it works really well. It's got a tiny Euro camera. But yeah, it's super cool. So I do fly. Actually, I started RC in quadcopters because my neighbor was flying a quadcopter, and it was really cool. And so I asked him about it, and that's how RC started, and then planes came into fruition. And so yes, I have flown mini quads. I've got also a 5-inch racing quad I made in a college project. And then I've got the Flywheel Explorer as a quad cam. But no, it works really well and super fun. It's just planes have been the recent fascination. So back to the soldering, that's the annoying part. I'm going to try to get these as close as I can, as well as making sure you can actually see it. Okay. And so I'm just going to apply a little bit of pressure. Let's stick. I think that looks just fine. Let's see. I eyeball it, and it looks fine. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for this red wire, which again, red to black. Did I listen to myself? Yes, it is red to black. And I'm going to try to get these wires as close as I can without any tweezers, so that when I use tweezers, it goes even smoother. There we go. And so a little extra solder never hurt. Oh, I've been on the wrong screen. Soldering. All right, so yeah, that's what it looks like. I'm going to add a little extra solder and try to get this one in there as well. Okay, I'm going to adjust because this is being annoying. Okay, we just need these to be close. At least want to slack in here. Okay. Okay. Give that a shot. Alright, that looks just fine. It looks like it flowed. Looks like it looks good enough. So I'm going to move the soldering stuff out of the way. That should be all the soldering we need, hoping that everything went well. But yeah, that looks just fine. And so then I'm going to use the heat gun to put this heat shrink over these joints so that it should close up like that. I'm going to mute myself because it's a hair dryer, so that might be a little loud. But I'll be back in a second. You'll be able to see it here. But I will mute myself until it's done. Drink. I'll so okay. And next is the patented heated up paperclip technique to get a little bit of a hole through the canopy. So that is super easy. I'm going to clean it up a little bit. Also, part that you don't normally see in a normal video when it's made is how messy everything gets behind the scenes, because this project is supposed to be fun. So let's see how this view is looking. Good. And what we're going to do is take a paper clip and heat it up and stick it straight through right about here, because we got little lines, as you can see, going across. That's what I'm going to use to just stick this straight down. As you can see, these wires come off the back side of the camera, so I'm going to make a hole likewise off this back side here-ish. And so if you look straight through, there's nothing on the underneath side that'll get in the way. So yeah, that's kind of the goal here. Hewing sent me there. First off, you had people send you stuff. That's cool. I put a Sparrow V3 OSD board on it. Finished with full maiden. Oh, that's cool. Flew 8 miles. Oh. Your stream is struggling, buddy. Might be me, but I might check phone. Yeah, it might be my fault. I don't really know. Oh, something turned off. Stream is struggling. Maybe me check the phone. Well, worst case scenario, this stream is just a good test, but flying for 8 miles is pretty cool. I can see on like the live what the stream looks like. It's kind of well behind where I'm at. But we'll keep chugging along. I appreciate the heads up that things aren't going well. Let's see. YouTube's not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Oh shoot, I'm doing my best. Stream status poor. Not great. Let's see. Can I change things to make it not poor? Well, I don't know how to change the stream settings on the fly, so we're just going to keep rolling through. Hopefully things either get better or this will be a great learning experience. But I'm going to heat up this paper clip and sink it in right about here. And be careful, because this is a fire, so you don't need to heat up for a super long time, but the hole does have to be big enough for this adapter to fit through. Okay, and we're just going to poke a hole. That worked really well. Huh, I was expecting it to do this a few times, but that hole widened up right away. And so again, the whole idea is that this adapter can fit through, or will eventually fit through this hole, so that we can have the wiring run straight through. As you can see, we're getting close. I have to do this one more time just to widen it a little bit, but it should be pretty easy. Seems better. Maybe lower the bit rate. I'll give that a shot. It could also just be my computer. Lower the bit rate. Stream's current bit rate is 29. Okay. Let's see if I can do it here. Settings. Stream. All right, well, I'll keep plugging along. All right, well, I'm gonna keep going. I'll heat this up again. We don't need that much extra space, so hopefully just making it a little bit wider does the trick. That should be good. Got a nice hole there. We can go back to the stream on here. So my computer's just taking a while, but keep going here. Okay, so if we can fit this adapter through, which we can, that means we're able to connect this camera down like this. So I'm just going to get a little piece of double-sided tape here, and I'm going to chop off just enough, since this double-sided tape is also like the perfect width of this camera, so I don't need a whole lot. Just take a little bit and find my scissors, which are, of course, nowhere to be found. One professional. Okay, well, I'll use a wire cutters. But got a little piece off here. Okay, so what we're going to do is put down this piece of double-sided tape pretty much, not over the hole, but pretty close to it. And then just put this camera on top. We'll pull the adapter through, and then just stick it down. I'll try to get this straight on with, it seems like I'm just off the sticky tape. Oh, and actually, since there's a little bit of curvature, as you can see in the nose here, I'm going to add a little piece of double-sided tape on each side so that it makes a little platform. Like instead of being curved like this, it'll be flat, so the whole thing will be able to stick really nicely. So use this. I'll cut off just a little piece. Okay, and then we just need to cross over. So I'll put this on one side. Just like this. Just stick that down, and then I'll use tweezers to take off that top piece of double-sided tape. And then do the same with this other piece. Stick it down. And then rip off excess. And then we can stick on the camera. So again, I'm just going to pull through the adapter and stick on this camera. Try to line it up as straight as possible, just by eyeballing it, and stick that in, just like that. And we have an installed camera. Now, of course, that's going to add a little bit of forward weight, but hopefully we can fix that with battery placement. But we have this adapter going through the middle, and the whole reason of having it is that we can just flip this on. There we go. And again, remember, the black and the red wires are opposite. Don't put them together. But we have this wire, which admittedly is pretty long for what we need, but that is totally okay. And so we've got our plane here. Just adjust this up a little bit. So I'm going to clear off the desk again. All we really need to do is test this with plugging this in, and we can see if we get power to this camera. And I've got that. See, I've got this little if you want to watch, or if someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, I want to see what you're doing," and you're flying with goggles on, you can get this little box device, and you'll see it. So hopefully it'll work the same for the stream. We'll put this behind it. That's me. And then I will plug in this to plug in power. I don't know what channel this is going to be coming from, but nonetheless, we're going to be plug this in. Okay, and I'll put this here for now, and then we'll get that battery, and when we plug this in, hopefully we get a nice signal and not smoke, because smoke would be real lame. Let's see, is there a way to test this to make sure? Yes, you can test this by using a multimeter and put the positive and negative sides into the battery voltage, or into the voltage lead here. And again, if you get any continuity, that means there are things that are touching that shouldn't be. So right now, this is continuity, but if you plug into the adapter, we should have no continuity, which it looks like we do not. I can also find the pads on the board and touch those. That looks kind of difficult. Yeah, I can't get to those pads, but it's just smart to double check and make sure you're not accidentally bridging things, because again, it takes 1 second mistake to cost you a whole board's worth of fixing. So if I can get this to stand up a little nicer. There, so we have camera feed here. I'm going to plug in this battery and then find whatever channel this is on. Go with that, and then we have here. Looks like we are on A8, so I can go band scan here. Somehow. A8. Almost there. There. And as you can see, that must have been misbeeping, but we have now a camera feed from the front of this, which if you put on the top, it should look really good. But yeah, that is the general gist of how it goes. I might go back and, I guess since we're on camera anyways, I can shrink this wire a little bit because there's no real reason to have it that long. That's more of just an oversight. But yeah, we can put this back on top and tape it back down, and that should really be the whole process. So I'm going to unplug this, unplug this, and I'm thinking, is there any reason to have the wire that long? It is just going straight down. It might actually get in the way if it's too long. So I'm going to disconnect this and this, and instead of having it super long, I'm going to, should I make it shorter? Yeah, it's probably just, well, I'll leave it long for now, but I will wrap it around a screwdriver, try to coil it a bit, keep it out of the way of everything. So this idea is, or this is just to make it a little smaller, and I guess stretch if you need it. But that should be just fine. So we reconnect it into that one port. And you might be wondering, well, why don't I just attach a secondary battery onto the outside of the plane? And that will, for one, totally work. What we like doing with these cameras, instead of having to worry about a second camera or a second system, or have to charge more things, it's a lot easier to just have it attached to the main board power, so that you don't have to ever worry about it. So what I'm going to do is, since I coiled this, I could maybe tape it forward. So I'm going to grab just a little piece of masking tape here, and it looks like we got one here. Let's go. But I'm going to take a little piece of tape and just make sure it stays in place. If I had my scissors, that would be a lot easier, but just using my so let's see, just gotta get a little cut in here. And we're going to just trim this out a little bit. Honestly, the reason for not making this shorter is in the near future, I might be making a few more cool changes to this plane. Right now it's got 4 channels. Wouldn't it be cool if it had 6 for other reasons? But you can just fit, once you got it taped away, I'm just making sure that all this extra wire is going forwards and not backwards, so it could get in the way of these little servos here. So I'm just going to put this forward and try to clip it in. It was a relatively tight fit. I'm not messing. Oh, I was squishing all the wires. You can just put that back in like that. And then all we're missing is a little bit of tape to keep this fuselage down, but then we should be good to go. Yeah, I'm trying to think, what else do we need to do to get it working? I guess I'm going to fix these little pieces of tail that aren't quite on the right way. Live from PA Olive Garden. Cheers! Well, welcome. Get the tour d'Italia for me. But let's see, what do we need? We need the full desk. I'm trying to find my scissors because I don't know why they wouldn't be here. I'll be right back. Alright, I got them. That should make things easier. So what I'm going to try to do here is put a tape just a whack or something through the details here. I'm just putting strips of tape this seam, just kind of close off, and get the whole should just be maybe 4 inches. 1. 2. Okay, that'll be more than enough. And this is half even. 3, and I'll put one last one up top here. 4, let's see, is there any, like, a lot of wiggle coming from anywhere? Not really. Well, I think that is looking good. We can test the weight. If you put the battery in, I won't plug it in, but I will put the battery in at least. So it's got Velcro already, that's good. We'll actually see, I've got the manual here, so we can see exactly where we're supposed to be CGing this to. 8 millimeters off of what? The CG is located 8 millimeters forward of the panel line. Great. Panel line. So we've got panel line, 8 millimeters forward of that. Millimeters. Alright. 8 millimeters forward. Alright, well, we're eyeballing it. But if you put this battery in, it looks like there's enough wiggle room where we kind of fish everything around so that it's still weighted correctly. The last thing we want to do is have a super CG bad plane, like the Headtrack Evo was at first. Alright, still need to be better on that front. Let's see, how do we get this moved in? There we go. Okay, so 8 millimeters forward of this line. I don't know, it's here? You're telling me it's tail heavy? I put the camera, like, depending on where you're looking at it, like 8 millimeters forward of the line. Is that this line? Gotta be, right? So 8 meters eastward or something. That's 8 millimeters forward of the panel line. Okay, so I'm gonna assume that means like in between this plastic and this line has got to be about 8 millimeters. I don't know. So I'm gonna put it right there and right there and see if, like, is this telling me we're tail heavy? I guess I can try to put the battery, okay, I have the battery kind of back. So if we just put the battery forward, this is all the experimentation that I have no idea. Also never flown this plane without a camera, so it's not like I have anything to base it off of. But if we put that again on this point and this point, if I tell me it's still tail heavy, I guess I don't have the propeller on the front. That might be a little bit of weight. Let's see. Maybe, yeah, this will not have a whole lot, but it'll be. Yeah, that's. Let's see. Get this sucker back on. We need the propeller itself to not spin, but we need it to kind of winch itself on. I can't tell if it's in far enough or not. There we go. Now we're tightening it down. Okay, I think that's on there better. So if I go back to that center of gravity line-ish, go here, and lift it up. You tell me now it's ridiculously nose heavy? I don't know. This would be kind of fishing around to see how it looks. But the last thing I'm going to do here is both of the elevator sides are a little dinged up. So I'm just going to take more packaging tape and just fish it around and try to smooth things out. Because the last thing we need to do is a bun elevator. So if I just take a little piece of packaging tape, put it on here and fold it around. So I don't need that much on the end. What I do need is just enough so that I can get it around. It's not really too much. So if I go to the other side and then fold it up, so I don't want it to stick at all to the part that should be moving. So if I then take this and then I'm going to do a little bit of trimming. There. Now just to get it a little extra strength, I'm going to trim off this corner so that it fits. Oh, the tape's better. So that should be at least keeping it in place. Is this other side? How does this whole side feel, kind of? Is that normal? I mean, it's still in there. I suppose it's pretty flimsy as is. But I think that's all we got. We got the camera on. It's all sturdy. We're able to move the battery around enough so that the center of gravity shouldn't be an issue. But this video will be coming out at some point. It won't be next. I'm still going to go fly it. But yeah, I guess I'll stick around if you have any more questions. It looks like all 2 of you, maybe 4. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will end the stream there. So thank you for watching and following along through what might be a lot of technical difficulties / not that good of a stream. We're trying to get things fixed going forward because I think it's kind of fun, especially with the projects where I'm trying to figure things out a lot more and like think through the process. It might be just fun. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. This has been adding a camera to the UMX Voodoo. We're looking forward to flying it because the Mustang is a cool plane by itself, but that super micro version with camera, like, I don't know, that sounds pretty cool. So yeah, that's what we got.